Okay, so get this right. Like, imagine if some of your most, like, super vivid memories, the ones you would swear on, are actually totally wrong.
Hmm.
And not just you. Tons of other people remember it the same way.
Oh, wow.
And it's, like, the wrong way, right? So that's the Mandela effect, and that's what we're going to be diving deep into today.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, and it's also, I don't know, kind of creepy too, right?
Yeah.
So we're actually basing this whole deep dive on this article. It's called 55 Mandela Effect Examples That'll Make You Question Everything, and it's, like, seriously mind-blowing. But I guess, like, before we get into the, like, really crazy examples, how did this whole thing, like, even get its name?
So the name comes from a specific shared memory, right? You
Mhm.
see, like tons of people very clearly remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 80s, some people even remember seeing the news coverage and like mourning his passing.
Wow.
But the reality is, Nelson Mandela didn't die until 2013, long after he was president of South Africa.
It's like a glitch in the matrix. And that's actually what led Fiona Broome,
Yeah.
who was like a paranormal researcher, to call it the Mandela Effect. And what's, like, really interesting, she wasn't the only one with this memory, right?
Right.
So why are we so, like, captivated by this whole idea of shared false memories?
So Wilma Bainbridge, who, has done a lot of work on this,
Yeah.
she suggests it's because the Mandela effect really challenges our sense of control over our own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we think our memories are, solid,
Yeah.
but the Mandela effect really throws a wrench in that, it's pretty unsettling.
Yeah, I think it's the sheer weirdness of it too, Like,
Yeah.
how can so many people share the same, like, wrong memory? It's like we all got the same software update with, like, a bug in the code or something.
Hmm.
But, I mean, before we go down this rabbit hole of, like, all these examples,
Yeah.
shouldn't we, like, try to understand what might be causing this?
Right.
Like, are we all just collectively losing it?
So, well, there's some pretty compelling theories out there.
Okay.
One idea is that our brains are wired to, like, prioritize what we expect to see over what's actually there.
Okay.
It's like our minds are filling in the blanks with what makes the most sense to us, even if it's not accurate.
So it's not about, like, deliberately lying. It's more like our brains are taking shortcuts. Is that why so many people think the Monopoly man wears a monocle when he, like, actually doesn't?
Exactly. We associate monocles with, wealthy older men, so it kind of makes sense that our minds would just add that detail to the Monopoly man, even though it was never there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like our brains are playing a game of telephone with information, and the message gets, distorted along the way.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about those times where, like, everyone around you remembers something a certain way,
Right.
and you start to doubt your own memories? Could this be about, like, the power of suggestion, especially, in the age of social media?
Oh, absolutely. Social media discussions about the Mandela effect can actually plant false memories in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We read something or see a meme,
Yeah.
and suddenly that becomes our truth,
Yeah.
even if it contradicts our original memory.
Right, right.
It's like collective amnesia fueled by likes and shares.
Oh, wow. So, okay, so our brains love shortcuts, and social media can twist our memories.
Right.
Is there anything else that might be, going on here?
Well, there's also the fact that some images or like pieces of information are just more memorable than others, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. You probably can't recall every single detail from a photo you saw years ago.
Right, right.
Some things stick and others fade away.
Yeah.
So it's like our brains are constantly prioritizing what's worth remembering, and sometimes that process gets a little, wonky.
Okay, so forgetfulness and our brains, like, playing favorites with memories, those
Yeah.
are also factors. That's starting to make this whole thing even more intriguing, but, like, the real fun starts when we get into, like, specific examples, right?
Right.
And trust me, we've got some, like, seriously mind-blowing ones lined up that'll make you question everything you thought you knew.
Okay,
So are you ready to dive in?
let's do it.
Okay, let's start with something that's been misquoted more times than we can count.
Okay.
I'm talking about that epic showdown between Luke and Darth Vader in Star Wars. You know the line, right? The one where Darth Vader drops a bomb on Luke's whole existence.
You're talking about Luke, I am your father, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Darth Vader never actually says that.
Oh, really?
The actual line is, "No, I am your father." It's like a small change,
Right,
but it's a big one, and yet the misquoted version is the one that, like, sticks with us.
Yeah.
The one that's become, like, part of our collective memory.
It has.
So, like, why do you think that is? Is it just, like, easier to remember the misquote, or is there like something deeper at play?
I think maybe the addition of Luke adds a dramatic flair to it,
Right.
a
Yeah.
personal touch that just resonates more.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just that it's been repeated so many times, in movies, TV shows, just in conversation, it's become like the accepted version, even though it's not accurate.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole Mandela effect thing works. Sometimes the misremembered version
Yeah.
is just more satisfying, you know? More impactful even if it's not the truth.
Yeah.
Ready for another pop culture head scratcher? Let's talk about Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Ah, yes. The lanky, lovable, perpetually hungry Shaggy. This one's a classic Mandela effect.
Okay.
Close your eyes for a sec and picture Shaggy in your mind.
Right.
What do you see?
All right, I've got him. Same goofy grin, same green shirt. And wait a minute. Doesn't he have like a really prominent Adam's apple?
Yeah.
Like you could practically see it bobbing up and down when he talks.
That's the image so many people have. But here's the thing. If you actually go back and watch the cartoons, you'll notice that Shaggy doesn't have a prominent Adam's apple at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's like our brains just decided to add that detail, maybe because it fits our image of like a tall, skinny guy like Shaggy.
Huh, that's interesting.
This is blowing my mind. It's like our collective imagination is somehow shaping reality, or at least our memories of it.
Yeah.
And speaking of like iconic images from childhood, let's talk about Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse, the symbol of Disney magic, childhood wonder,
Right.
and a victim of the Mandela effect.
You got it. Okay, so get this. Many people, myself included, have a clear memory of Mickey Mouse wearing suspenders.
Oh, well.
I'm talking, the classic red shorts, the big yellow shoes, and those signature suspenders holding it all together. But guess what?
What?
He never wore suspenders. Not once in his entire animated history. And yet so many people swear they saw them. It's almost as if we've, merged Mickey's image with other cartoon characters, or maybe even, real-life imagery to create this false memory.
That's so
Maybe it's
mean.
because those iconic red shorts, they just seemed like they needed something extra, Like, those suspenders were, the missing piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Our brains just filled in the gap.
Yeah, it's a fascinating example of how our minds can construct memories even when they're not entirely accurate.
Okay, this is incredible. So we've covered some pretty wild examples in, pop culture.
Right.
But the Mandela effect doesn't just stop there. Are you ready to venture into the world of brands and logo?
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about Cap'n Crunch. That sugary cereal that defined, many of our childhoods. Quick, without thinking too hard, how do you spell Cap'n?
C-A-P', Captain. Right.
Exactly. It's not Captain. You might expect
Yeah.
that little apostrophe, throws a lot of people off. Leads to a classic Mandela effect moment. It's like our brains try to, autocorrect it to the more common spelling.
Right.
Ready for another one? This one's a real head scratcher. How do you spell Looney Tunes?
Well, most people would probably say Looneytons, Looney Tunes, It just rolls off the tongue.
That's what I thought too. But the real spelling is Looneytunes, Looney Tunes, with a U instead of an O.
Oh, wow.
It's a subtle difference, but it's enough to trip a lot of people up. Why do you think that is?
Well, the word tunes is so commonly associated with cartoons, so it makes sense that our brains would default to that spelling,
Yeah,
even if it's not the official one.
right.
Like our minds are trying to categorize to make sense of the world using familiar pattern associations, and sometimes those associations lead us astray.
This is making me wonder if we can trust anything anymore. What about those beloved bears from our storybooks, the ones that taught us about family and adventure? You know who I'm talking about, right?
The Berenstain Bears.
Yes. But here's the thing. A lot of people remember it as Berenstein Bears with an E, not an A.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the most debated Mandela effects out there.
Yeah.
And for good reason. It seems like everyone remembers those bears with an E. But if you look at the books, it's always been Berenstain.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
I know. I could practically see those books on my childhood bookshelf
Right.
with the big bold letters spelling out Berenstein.
Yeah. Maybe we all just collectively hallucinated an entire letter or something.
It's certainly a possibility. Or maybe there's something else going on, something we don't understand yet.
Yeah.
The Mandela effect is full of these strange, discrepancies, these little glitches in our collective memory that make you question everything you thought you knew.
Okay, before we venture any further into this rabbit hole of memory bending mysteries, let's take a quick breather. We've covered a lot of ground already, from Darth Vader to Shaggy to Mickey Mouse. What's your take on what we've discussed so far?
I think what's really fascinating is how these examples highlight how our brains are constantly trying to, make sense of the world, to create order out of chaos. And sometimes that means, filling in the blanks, making assumptions, even distorting memories to fit our preconceived notions.
It's like our brains are playing a constant game of connect the dots.
Yeah,
And sometimes we end up drawing lines that aren't really there.
exactly.
But don't worry, folks. We've only just scratched the surface of the Mandela Effect. We've got plenty more, like, mind-boggling examples coming up.
Oh, great.
So grab a glass of water, take a deep breath, and prepare to have your reality shattered.
Oh,
We'll be right back.
sounds good.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've just started to, like, unravel the mysteries of the Mandela Effect.
Yeah, these seemingly small discrepancies, right?
Yeah.
They can actually tell us some pretty big things about how our minds work.
Exactly. We're about to jump into even more examples that'll leave you, like, scratching your head. We've talked about pop culture, but get ready because the world of brands and logos is like a Mandela Effect hotspot.
Yeah.
You know that, like, fresh scent of Febreze, right? Like a miracle worker for, like, any bad smell.
Yeah.
But how do you spell it?
Most people would say Febreze, Febreze, with two E's.
Right. It seems natural.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, too. But get this. It's actually Febreze.
Oh, wow.
Just one E. Mind blown. Right?
Yeah. It's a simple spelling, but that second E often sneaks into people's memories.
Right.
Maybe it's because we're like used to seeing double E's in words like breeze or freeze,
Yeah.
so our brains kind of just fill in the blank.
Right. It's like our brains are, like, obsessed with patterns even when they're not really there.
Hmm.
Speaking of patterns, let's talk about a brand that's synonymous with, like, smooth, creamy goodness, The perfect companion to a PB&J. I'm talking about Jif peanut butter, or is it Jiffy?
Ah, yes, the Jif versus Jiffy debate. It's a classic Mandela Effect dilemma.
Yeah.
So many people remember it as Jiffy,
Right.
but it's always been JIF.
I swear I've seen jars labeled Jiffy on supermarket shelf.
Really?
Maybe it's a phantom brand, like, existing only in our collective memory.
Perhaps. Or maybe it's like our brains merging two similar concepts.
Right.
The smooth spreadability of peanut butter
Yeah.
and the, like, quick, easy nature of something being Jiffy.
So our brains are making these, like, weird connections, blending words and ideas, and suddenly we have, like, a whole new reality.
Right.
I'm starting to see a theme here. Our brains are like little storytellers,
Yeah.
Always trying to create a narrative, even if it means, like, twisting the facts a little bit.
That's a great way to put it, We're wired for narratives, for patterns.
Right.
It's how we make sense of the world. But sometimes that drive for meaning can lead to these fascinating memory discrepancies.
Okay, let's stay on this, like, delicious path.
Yep.
We've got peanut butter. How about some hot dogs? What comes to mind when I say Oscar Mayer?
The iconic Wienermobile, catchy jingles and those delicious hot dogs.
Now, how do you spell Mayer?
Mayer, right. Wait a second. It's Mayer with an A, not an E.
Oh, man, you're right. It seems like every time I think I've got a handle on reality, the Mandela Effect, like, pulls the rug out from under me.
Yeah, don't worry. It happens to the best of us.
Let's
These subtle spelling changes are like little cracks in the foundation of our memories.
Okay, one more for the road, and this one is all about footwear. When you think of, like, comfy, stylish shoes, what brand pops into your head?
Skechers, known for their, like, trendy designs and comfortable fit.
But how do you spell it? Be careful now, the Mandela Effect might be lurking.
Sketthers, right. Wait, no T.
You got it. It's Skechers, not Skechers that missing T has, like, tripped up countless people.
It's another example of our brains, like, simplifying things,
Right.
filling in gaps with what seems like the most logical.
Okay, we've got our brains playing tricks on us with spellings. What about those instances where an entire product just seems to, like, vanish from existence?
You're talking about those, like, phantom products that people swear they remember,
Yeah,
but there's no evidence they ever existed.
exactly. Like that whole Sinbad as a genie thing.
Oh, yeah.
So many people claim they remember a 90s movie called Shazam,
Right.
starring Sinbad as a genie.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case. People describe the movie in detail,
Yeah.
the plot, the characters, even specific scenes, but there's no trace of it anywhere.
Right.
No posters, no trailers, no VHS tapes gathering dust in attics.
I've heard theories that, like, people are confusing it with the movie Kazam,
Right.
starring Shaquille O'Neal as a genie.
That's a common explanation, but some people are adamant that, like, Shazam was a completely different movie
Yeah.
with a different storyline. It's like we have this collective memory of a movie that never existed.
It's definitely one of the weirder Mandela Effect examples out there. Speaking of weird, let's dive back into the world of music. Think about Britney Spears in her iconic Oops, I Did It Again music video. Remember that? Like red latex suit, the futuristic setting.
Classic early 2000s pop. That music video was everywhere.
Now picture Britney in that video. What's she wearing?
Well, besides the red suit, didn't she have a headset microphone on?
Right.
Like the kind pop stars wear on stage.
That's what so many people remember.
Yeah.
But if you go back and watch the video, you'll notice that Britney never wears a headset.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's like our memories have merged her like on stage persona with her like music video persona.
It's a case of our brains like blending different contexts, creating a memory that doesn't quite match reality.
This is making me wonder how many other facts we've accepted as truth are actually just like fabrications of our own minds.
That's and perhaps the unsettling nature of the Mandela effect, right?
Right.
It
Yeah.
forces us to confront the fallibility of our own memories, and it opens up like a whole world of possibilities about the nature of reality itself.
This is getting deep. But before we dive into the like philosophical implications, let's wrap up this section with one more brand name. This one's a classic, and it might just make you question everything you thought you knew about, like household essentials.
Okay.
I'm talking about WD-40, the trusty solution for squeaky hinges and sticky locks.
Yeah, everyone's got a can of WD-40 stashed away somewhere.
What do you think WD-40 stands for?
Isn't it like water displacement 40th attempt?
Right.
The story goes that it took the inventor like 40 tries to perfect the formula.
That's what I always thought. It's such a satisfying origin story, A testament to perseverance and ingenuity.
But here's the twist. WD-40 actually just stands for water displacement.
Oh, really?
The number 40 refers to the formula number,
Okay.
not the number of attempts.
Wait, seriously, that's a major letdown?
Yeah,
I kind of prefer the 40 attempts story.
I understand sometimes the myth is more appealing than the reality. But in this case, the Mandela effect has created like an elaborate backstory that just isn't true.
This whole deep dive is making me wonder about the fine line between memory and imagination.
It's a blurry line for sure, and the Mandela effect just highlights how much our imaginations can shape our perception of reality.
Well, after all these mind-bending examples, my brain is officially fried.
But this is where it gets really interesting. Why are we so fascinated by this?
Right.
And what does it tell us about the human mind?
Okay, I'm ready for some answers. What does it all mean? Okay, so we've gone through a ton of Mandela effect examples.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly feeling a little shaken. It's like realizing you can't even trust your own memory.
Right. It's definitely unsettling.
Yeah.
But, beyond the strangeness of it all, the Mandela effect brings up some really big questions about memory and perception and how we understand the world around us.
Yeah, what I find fascinating is how it exposes just how, I don't know, how bendable our memory is. It's not like a perfect recording, right?
Right.
It's more like a story that our brains are constantly telling themselves, and it's changing all the time.
Exactly. If you kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
I think the Mandela effect reminds us that memory is super influenced by our expectations, suggestions,
Right.
even our desires. It's not this objective record of the past.
That's kind of a scary thought, but it also seems incredibly relevant, especially today,
Oh, absolutely.
where misinformation is everywhere.
Right. The Mandela effect, in a way, is like a little microcosm of what's happening on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
It teaches us to be more critical of all information, even stuff we think we know for sure.
So it's not just about quirky, misremembered details. It's about having a healthy skepticism towards, everything we encounter,
Yeah.
even our own memories.
Exactly.
That raises a really important question then. How do we navigate this world of unreliable memories and just too much information all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we can't just constantly doubt everything, right?
Right.
So, what's the takeaway for our listeners? How can we use this knowledge?
Yeah. How can we apply it?
I think the key is to be curious but informed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to question things, to double check your memories, right?
Yeah.
With reliable sources, and be open to the possibility that you might be wrong.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify. And when it comes to memories, that that verification process can actually be, like, pretty fun.
Yeah, it is.
You might even discover your own, like, personal Mandela Effect moments.
That's true.
Right, right. It's a great way to, like, engage with the world around you and with your own mind.
Absolutely. Embrace that curiosity, that willingness to learn and adapt.
This whole deep dive has been, like, a wild ride.
It has.
My brain is definitely working overtime trying to, like, process it all.
But that's the point, isn't it? The Mandela Effect challenges us to, like, think differently about memory,
Right,
perception, and even reality itself.
right.
It's a reminder that the world is full of, mysteries.
Yeah.
And the more we question, the more we learn.
Okay, I think that's like a perfect note to end on. So to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. Now that you're like aware of the Mandela Effect, how will you approach your own memories?
Yeah.
What will you question? What will you rediscover? Keep those minds open, keep exploring, and maybe, just maybe, you'll uncover your own like a mind-bending Mandela Effect moment.